Hello, my name is David Rotimi, and I help global brands tell their stories in a clear and compelling way. I'm a partner at Banisoro Design Agency, and Banisoro is a full-service design agency that designs beautiful communication for brands and individuals.
Hello everyone. Over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to take you through how to take proper product images for you and for your business. Okay, so we're going to go over what are the elements that make a good product image. First on the list is clarity and sharpness. That means that whatever images you're going to use on your website or any listing platform should be very clear and sharp, meaning that it should have high quality, because typically quality of your images determine how people will perceive the quality of your product. So you want to ensure that your images are very clear and very sharp as well. Next thing you want to consider are accurate color representations. Now, this is very crucial, especially when you're dealing with things like fabric or colors, things that you need to ensure that you have accurate color representation for. Okay, so it's really important to ensure that you maintain accuracy and ensure that the product looks as real as what it looks like on the screen. So in these cases, you should avoid any form of heavy editing that may change the color preset or the nature of the color. All right. Next is appropriate lighting. Of course, as you can see, as I'm going to show you in this picture, you see, this is a picture of a burger and this is another picture of a burger. Okay. But you can see the clear difference between two of them. One is properly lit while the other isn't. So you want to ensure that in your product pictures, you have enough lighting. The better the quality of your lighting, the better the quality of your images. And next, you want to try to have different angles. You want to include multiple shots from various angles for what your product looks like, so that people can really see what it looks like. Very, very important. Next, you want to include contextualization. What does this look like? Now, here we're looking at shoes, okay? And what you can see here is that you have not just put a picture of the shoe, but you have put a picture of what it looks like when you are wearing the shoe. That's important. Here we can see the same thing. But here we also have it in contextualization of how it's used. Let me show you what that can look like. Okay, this is what we call cassava in Nigeria. All over the world is called cassava. Okay, now we have no context for what this picture looks like. It's just a picture of a cassava. Okay, straight from the farm. Next, we see the same cassava but with a different context. We see the sky, so it feels like maybe it's looking happier. Okay, still not enough context, although it has some context. We can see it for what it is as cassava, but we don't exactly have a context for what it can be used for if you don't exactly know what the process is like from beginning to end. Now we begin to get some context. You can see this on a wooden background. Typically, you would assume that's a kitchen. You can see the cassava sliced. Already, you're putting it in context that, you know, this is cassava. It can be sliced. Okay. And when you put it in that context, somebody who is looking at it feels like, okay, this is something that can be cooked as well. Now here you can see it has been peeled, dried, and sliced. So you can see it in a kitchen. You are already getting the context that, okay, this is something that needs to be eaten. This is something that is typically used in a kitchen. Now, if you have two people who are selling the same product, typically somebody will be drawn to the product images that are more contextualized, because it's more immersive. So you want to ensure that you have that. Now we even go a step further by showing another variation of the same product, meaning that, you see, this is cassava. It can be sliced, it can be peeled, it can be dried, it can be used to make what we call gari in Nigeria, okay, or cassava flakes as people really like to call it. Now, another thing you want to ensure that you have is consistent brand style. It means that if you are designing your images, especially if you're going to use them on your website, you want to ensure that you are consistent with your brand style. If your pictures are heavily saturated with color every time, you want to make sure that is consistent. If your pictures have low saturation, you want to ensure that that is consistent. If you are doing black and white, you want to ensure that that is consistent. Very, very important. It helps you to maintain an aesthetic for what your brand looks like. Another thing you want to ensure you look out for is composition. It's another important element. Now, let me show you what's happening here. So this is a picture of an orange, okay? It's right in the middle of the frame. Now, there's something that photographers call the rule of thirds, okay? Typically, you have this feature on your phone sometimes where you can see, you turn on your grids and you can see 4 grid lines. Now, the rule of thirds means that you position your object on 1/3 of your frame. So you set your picture to tally with these two dots. So that's what we have in this picture. So you can see this is 1 and this is 2. Okay, now this is also useful apart from the visual aesthetic that it gives where you are able to compose it differently. It also gives you an opportunity in case you want to do designs. Okay, so graphic designs. Here, imagine you can have your text here and it just looks very nice. Okay. Another thing that composition can make your work look like, just it looks nice. Composition is not just in the placement, but also in the arranging of the items. Okay, so this is cassava, but it looks like it was well arranged. All right. You can see the same thing here, very well arranged. You can tell that there was some intentionality into the composition of what it looks like, not just scattered. Now let's move over to what tools and equipment we need to use for our photography to ensure that we have great pictures. We're going to go over this really quickly. One of the first things you want to use is a camera, obviously. Okay, a camera because you want to take pictures that are very clear. Now, the quality of your camera can determine the quality of your pictures, but that's not the only element in determining the quality of your pictures. But you want to ensure that you do the best that you can. If you want to rent a camera for a photo shoot, that can make sense. Okay, sometimes a phone may be good enough. If you have a good quality phone that has a good camera, you may be fine with that. Okay, but you need to get a camera. Now, another thing you want to get is a tripod. Now, one of the important things that the tripod does is that it stabilizes your pictures, especially when you want to take your pictures from the same spot every single time for consistency. So a tripod is going to help you stabilize your picture, and it helps you with consistency in framing. Very, very important. Now, another thing which is very important is lighting. The quality of your lighting can make or mar your images. Sometimes, no matter how great your camera is, if your lighting is bad, your picture is going to be bad. So if you have a phone, you can start with sunlight. Sunlight is really good. You just want to ensure that you are out at a good time of the day and you avoid any excessive shadow, and you position your product in the direction of the sunlight to avoid any form of shadowing. Okay, so lighting is good. You can get a soft box, you can get a ring light, any type of lighting that works depending on your budget. All right, now we have a backdrop. A backdrop is important because it helps you to create a neutral background that helps you to eliminate distractions as well, and it helps you maintain focus on the product itself and not just anything around it. That's very important to have. Another thing you may also want to have are reflectors. Now, reflectors help to enhance lighting by bouncing light on the product. Okay, so if you're having a photo shoot in your studio or in your store or in your office or your factory, a reflector is going to help you bounce off lights onto your products. Now, what that does is it reduces what the shadows look like on your pictures. Another thing you also want to get is a photo editing software. Adobe Photoshop is one of the most popular, but depending on what you can afford, if you can use the basic editing software on your phone, that may just be fine as well. Okay, but you need something to edit your pictures to also maintain consistency. Another thing you also need will be props and styling. Okay, now the props are going to be useful for enhancing and contextualizing your pictures. Okay, many times they just help your product to look nice, to look more appealing, and to look very, very beautiful. Let's talk about different types of product photographs. Okay, most importantly, we have the hero shots. Now, the hero shots is simply the primary image that showcases the product in its best light. So there's no distraction here. You have the product, you have no distraction. It's in its best light. And here you can see there are many angles you could have taken, but we took a side angle that shows both the front, back, and the sides as well. You want to do that for any product that you're having. Show as many things as possible at once. We also have lifestyle shots. Lifestyle shots are good because it puts your product in context. Like I mentioned earlier, it helps you to put your products in context in real life scenarios so that people see what your product looks like and how it can be used in real life. It helps people to purchase from you when they can see your product in a real life scenario. Another thing that we have are detail shots. Now, detail shots help you to magnify some extra detail that show the level of craftsmanship on your products. Sometimes it may not be the craftsmanship, sometimes it may be what the differentiating factor of your product is compared to other brands. So it helps you to detail a part of your product. Scale and context shots. Now, what these do are, it helps you to scale your products For example, when you see this, if you didn't put it in a box with a hand beside it, you may not realize how small it is, because you see this shape may look like a paint bucket, but when it's contextualized with a physical human body and with a hand, you start to understand what size it is, how big it is, how small it is. Now take a look at this beanie. Okay, without a hand, you may not know how big it is. It may pass off for a baby's beanie, it may pass off for an adult, but you can't tell unless you scale it. Okay, which is very, very important. Here you have 360-degree shots. Okay, now what you do here is that you want to have as many angles as possible, and if possible, you may have a video where your product is rotating. If you can go that far, why not? Anything to give your customers the best experience possible. Now, action shots are different because what they do is that they help you to depict your product in use or in motion. For example, you see the shoe here. Now we're able to put it in motion because it is used for motion. But you see, makeup is not a product where you have to use it in motion, but in terms of physical effects, and many times you may need a professional photographer to achieve this. Okay, but action shots give your product the extra energy, the extra effects that it can have, just so that your customers have the best possible experience. If you take all this into consideration, I'm sure that your product is going to have an amazing turnout and a great effect in the sight of your customers and any other person that experiences your brand. Thank you so much. See you in the next lesson.